Well, I guess I'm weekly vlogging now because it's Wednesday afternoon and I am itching to pick up the camera. And I feel like it's just like a little too early to justify calling this a weekend vlog. Like, I feel like I can get away with it when I start stuff on Thursday afternoons because I usually don't have a ton going on Fridays. But it's Wednesday, so I don't feel like I can get away with that this time. So we're weekly vlogging. I've just been really enjoying vlogging, and I feel like it's really helping me make progress on stuff and like stay accountable for the things I say I'm gonna do. I was really happy with everything I got done last week when I was doing this, so that's what we're doing now. And to be honest, I kind of need it because I have 3 books I need to read by Monday. And I think this vlog is I'm gonna start doing like Monday to Sunday, I think is gonna be the plan. But today's Wednesday, so we're gonna go Wednesday to Sunday this time. And I've got 3 books to finish in the next little bit. First up, I need to read I Never Thought of It That Way by Monica Guzman. This one I actually don't have to read the whole book. I might if I really enjoy the first chunk of it. But for one of my classes I'm taking, it's Topics in Gender and Sexuality Studies, we have to read 1 hour of this before the first day of class, and then we have a poll that we have to fill out to like tell the class how far we got. I don't know exactly what we're doing with that yet, but I've just borrowed this copy from the instructor today. She had several for this purpose, so I borrowed this from her today, and I need to go ahead and read that 1 hour and do the poll, and if I like it I'll continue reading it, but if I do that I need to read it before Friday because I said I would return it on Friday. So first up is this, and it's a book about how to have difficult conversations in our very like politically divided times. The author is a journalist who, she voted for Joe Biden, and then her parents have twice voted for Trump. They're very conservative, she's very liberal, and so it's about like how to bridge that gap, which I think is going to be difficult but also interesting. So today I'm going to do that 1 hour I need to read, see how I'm feeling about this, and if I like it I'll just keep going, but I definitely have to read 1 hour of this today, so that's one of the things I'm going to be getting done. Then I also still need to read Translation State, and this one isn't actually due until the 25th, but the other book I currently have out from the library is due on the 21st. I've already finished it, but it takes me a little bit to get to the library, so I wanted to just like finish both of them and make it one trip. So I need to go ahead and finish this so that I can take it back to the library along with the other book since that one's due. And then the last thing is that I need to read He Who Drowned the World by Shelley Parker Chan, which is an ARC, and that one comes out on August 22nd, so next Tuesday, and I need to get that read. I was originally going to do a separate vlog for that, but I've decided no, I just want to put it in a weekly vlog and just start doing this and letting myself kind of like pick what I need to read and pick things that I'm excited about. So we're just going to go ahead and do this here too. He Who Drowned the World, second book in the Radiant Emperor duology. Loved the first book, just finished it like 2 weeks ago-ish, and gave that 5 stars. Super excited to see what's going to happen next, although I'm also kind of terrified because terrible things happen to all of the characters in the first book. So I'm really interested to see what the second book is going to take everything, and I think we get a new perspective as well. And that new perspective is a character I really was interested in the first book. We don't see a lot of him, but I'm curious to see what his perspective is going to be like. So I'm going to be reading that one as well, and that one comes out on the 22nd, so that needs to get read so I can submit my review for that. Those are the books I need to read. I have a list on my hand of everything I needed to remember as well. Oh, also, lastly, if I can get it from the bottom of the stack, I almost forgot one of the books I need to start. This one's not as pressing because it's for the class I'm doing a teaching internship in, and we're not actually reading this book until like October, but Snow Crash by Neil Stephenson, I need to go ahead and start this at least. I don't know if I'll get to it like early this week, but maybe over the weekend. But first of all, what I'm going to do today is portion it out. I'm going to grab the course calendar and like divide it into sections, make some notes for myself on what we're going to be discussing for each section so I can kind of focus on that in my own reading. And also I got to start planning the week that I'm leading discussion. So that's what I need to do with Snow Crash. I don't know a lot about this. It's some sort of like sci-fi thing with virtual reality. There's a computer virus that's taking down hackers, and the main character is named Hero Protagonist. So that's all the reading stuff. Other things on my to-do list. Oh, random exciting thing that happened to me today. I got pre-approved for an ARC. That's never happened before, but I got a random email, which I verified before I clicked on anything. It was legit. That was like, hey, we looked at your NetGalley, you've been reading things similar to this, we thought you might be interested in this, here's a pre-approval link. So it's right now set on NetGalley as like wish list, or not wish list, wish for it instead of being like a book you can request. But I actually, like, the link worked and I got to read it immediately. So that book is The Tainted Cup by Robert Jackson Bennett, who is the author of Foundryside, which I've not read, but this sounds like it's gonna be so good. It's a like Holmes and Watson-esque fantasy mystery with a detective who wears a blindfold most of the time and never leaves her home, and then her new assistant who is kind of weirded out by her because she's very eccentric, but he's now assisting her with this investigation where a guy in a mansion died suddenly when a tree erupted out of his body. That just sounds wild. I'm so interested to see where that's gonna go, and I love anything that's like a Holmes and Watson-esque mystery. I love that dynamic, so I'm really excited about this. I've never been pre-approved for something before, but I'm not gonna read it just yet. I just want to mention it because I was excited about it. I also have a TBR cart, so that's gonna be coming up. I'm gonna put together a video organizing my TBR cart because I am going to have one so that I don't have to have this like stack of dread living on my desk all of the time, and I can have my space back for like schoolwork and stuff. That's actually everything now. Success. I remembered all of the bullet pointed things I wrote on my hand. So first things first today, I need to read this thing for 1 hour, get through an hour of this, and I'm gonna go ahead and portion out Snow Crash today as well. And then, so this is the to-do list today. Is that gonna be a feature, a to-do list? I might do that, we'll see. To-do list, 1 hour of Monica Guzman, portion out Snow Crash, and also randomly I need to buy a copy of Stardew Valley because that's the other thing that we're doing in the class I am TIing for. We're going to be reading Snow Crash later on, but we're also all going to be playing Stardew Valley together, and we're all starting a new farm on Friday, so I need to buy the game prior to Friday, so I'm just going to do it today before I like forget to do that. So I'm going to go get started on those things, and hopefully today will be productive. I think it will be. Turns out it didn't take me like any time at all to portion out Snow Crash. There were just a few sections. Looks like the chapters are very short, and I think there's actually some like additional materials in the back of this edition. Maybe? No, it's just the last section is gonna be really long, is all. So I have all of the different sections marked so I can see where each section begins. And what I decided to do was I made a little card for each section for myself that has the chapter that it's relevant for, chapters I should say, and the topic for that week. So that as I am reading, I can pay special attention to those particular ideas in those sections. And then this section, I think it is this it? Yes. And then this one is the one that I'm going to be leading a discussion on. This is chapters 12 to 22, and that's justice and violence. Very excited about that. I've got to think about what all I'm going to talk about, which I may use the back of this note card for some additional notes. But yeah, that's all done, and now I can move on and do the reading I need to do for my other class. Just finished reading my hour of I Never Thought of It That Way, and I think I probably will keep reading this. It's interesting so far. This is written by a journalist, and so it's a blend of like journalistic technique, interviews, social science studies she's gone through and, you know, pulled together some data and information from various studies over the years. There's political data, and also a bunch of her own like personal anecdotes as well. So it's a really interesting blend of things that she's using to make these arguments about how we have become divided and what that does to our interactions with other people. So I think it's pretty interesting so far. I'm still in part one, which is about like how we become divided. It's part one is called SOS, and it's about sorting, othering, and siloing. That's hard to say. and just like the processes that lead us to seek out people who are like us, villainize people who are not like us, and then how that influences the information that we access and, you know, use to form our own opinions. So really interesting so far. Probably gonna keep reading. It's not terribly difficult of a read. It looks like I am further in, I think, than I really am. My hair is caught in the spine there. I guess I was shedding. Anyway, I'm like 40 pages in. I think it's only like 230 pages. So it looks like I'm further in than I really am. But yeah, I think it's an interesting read. I don't know quite what to make of it entirely yet, but I'm curious to see what the later sections are going to do, building on the foundation this first section about kind of the creation of divide is like laying out. So that's that. And I also managed to buy a copy of Stardew Valley. I don't want to say managed, like that was hard. The eShop did take a long time to load though, but I did go ahead and buy Stardew Valley as well. I went back and looked at my to-do list and I realized that I meant to put together my TBR cart today, but I decided to leave that for tomorrow when I have better lighting and I can actually like film parts of it, because I would like to make a little video of like my TBR cart setup and all that kind of stuff. But because I was not going to do that, I just kept reading. I never thought of it that way. And I'm now about page 100. I just finished part 2, which is titled Curiosity. So part 1 is SOS, sorting, othering, siloing. And then part 2 is Curiosity. So the first part is just about like, how did we get so divided? Why do we think we're so divided? Are we actually as divided as we think we are? Basically, how have we ended up here? And some of the like social mechanisms that have led to that perception of reality and parts of that reality. So I thought that was really interesting. And then part 2, she talks about curiosity, which she sees as being like the greatest tool for bridging the gap between people of differing beliefs, because there's a tendency to like assume that we know what somebody else believes or think that we understand what the other side of whatever belief thinks, and most of the time we're wrong. We're not good at guessing other people's beliefs, and we're also really bad at guessing or understanding how like the other side thinks of us. So because of that, she sees curiosity as like the best tool to combat that, because you actually go out and seek information, try to better understand other people's perspectives. And then she talks a lot about conversation in here as like a tool of curiosity, of like the best thing we can do is go out and talk to people who have different beliefs. And then she gives some tips on like how to have productive conversations. How can you gauge when is the right time to start a difficult conversation? What kind of skills can you develop to become a better active listener and to get better at like building connection with other people even when you disagree with them. So pretty interesting so far. Definitely gonna keep reading. I'm about page 100. I think this is like 230 pages, so I'm gonna try and finish this tomorrow, because then I can just take it back to my professor on Friday and have finished the whole thing. Happy Thursday. It's Thursday morning, fairly early. It's just after 8. I'm waiting on my work computer to finish loading everything because I am working from home today. I'm playing the game of like how many times can I mistype my password this morning. Just kind of waiting for all of the applications to load. But while I was doing that, I thought I would check in this morning and talk about my to-do list for the day, because I really feel like having a kind of a short list of small goals yesterday helped me stay on track, and I would really like to keep that kind of productivity train rolling and get some more things done today. Especially because today is one of the days that, since I work from home, I have a lot more time in the afternoon to get things done. I do have a haircut this evening, so I have a little bit less time than I would have otherwise, because I've got to make dinner around 5-ish so that it's ready when Mom gets home, because she has a bit of a commute. And then we're going to get haircuts this evening, where we usually schedule them back to back so we can like carpool to it. So like the first thing I want to do is carry it over from yesterday. I want to go ahead and set up my TBR cart while I have the good like early afternoon lighting that I get in my usual filming space. I like to film in my room in front of my bookcases, and I get a lot better light in there, kind of late morning to early afternoon. So I want to do that and take advantage of that, which will also be nice because it'll get me away from my computer screen for a little bit, you know? So that's thing number one. The second thing is that I need to start working on some preliminary research for my second thesis paper, and I've already pulled a bunch of articles that I think are going to be useful, put together the citations, I saved them. I just need to go read them is all. And I think I'm kind of stuck at that hurdle of like getting started, like it feels daunting. So my goal for today is I just want to read one article. Just like one. I just want to get that forward momentum of I have started this thing, I am making progress on this thing, and then usually once I get past that step, that kind of early bit of like being daunted by the task, usually then I find it much easier to keep going. So today's goal, read one article. The last goal for today is that I would like to go ahead and finish I Never Thought of It That Way by Monica Guzman, so that I can turn this back into my professor having read the whole thing, because that would be really cool. But also I think it's interesting, and I'm curious to see what her advice in the later chapters is going to be, because there's been several bits of foreshadowing, like there's going to be more advice. The first few chapters are kind of setting up the problem and talking about some of the tools that she thinks are useful, and then the latter part is going to be advice on how to utilize those tools. So those are kind of my main goals. I do have like a little bonus goal, which is that I would like to work on my hat at least a row today, because I haven't actually finished that. I meant to finish it by Tuesday, and I have not done that because my arm was hurting last week and I didn't do much knitting because it was painful. So I'd love to do that as well. But those are the goals for the day. I feel like this is a doable list. So I'm gonna go get started on work, and then this afternoon I will get started on this list, and I'll check back in with you guys when I have accomplished something. I just finished work, and I have the two sleepiest boys here with me. Elwood stole my chair a while ago, so I've been standing at my desk. And then Pumpkin is over here, having him a little nap as well. I just finished I Never Thought of It That Way, and I enjoyed this book a lot more than I was anticipating I would. I actually think I may go out and get myself a copy of this, because I see this as a book that I might like lend out to other people in my life who I think might either enjoy what this author has to say or benefit in some way from it. But I also want to walk back something I said a little bit ago. I said something about this feels like it's offering individual solutions to a systemic problem because it's talking about like the political divide in America right now. And I want to back up a little bit on that, because I think that that is not what this book is trying to do. It's not trying to tackle the political divide. It is encouraging people to take a step back from our knee-jerk reactions, to take a step back from our assumptions about others, and work to like put ourselves on a level playing field with people who don't share our beliefs. As like, we can't begin to address any issues until we have reached a point where you're willing and able to talk to people who disagree with us. Like, we can't address things systemically before we have reached a point where we can view other people as people and have the difficult conversations to start that process. So I think it's really interesting, and I think I might return to this book at some point. I think she has some interesting points in the latter part of the book about like the power of storytelling, about like looking at how people got to what they believe, and not just like seeing them as a collection of beliefs, but as like individuals who have, you know, have had certain lived experiences that have kind of culminated in whatever their current opinions or beliefs are. And I think she does have some good tips later on for how to have what she refers to in some spaces as like more curious and open conversations. So I think it's a really interesting book. I'm glad that I have read it, and I'm excited that I managed to read it quickly enough that I can now return it to my professor without having completed it, without having left part of it unread. So that's kind of exciting. I did not expect to read this that quickly. Actually, when I first read the description, I thought this was going to be really boring or like really controversial, and that's actually my own knee-jerk reaction to this idea that we can like reach across gaps and try to understand people who feel differently from us. I do wish that this book had talked a little more about like how to approach those points where matters of opinion aren't just like a disagreement, but are matters of like policy, or where people's opinions are leading to cultural shifts that make certain groups unsafe or undervalued. So I'm thinking like specifically with all the things we're seeing about like book banning, and particularly like banning of books that discuss issues of sexuality and gender and the kind of marginalization, particularly of children who are not gender conforming or, you know, not straight, not what heteronormative, that kind of issue. And also like some of the policies we're seeing with trying to limit or eliminate access to abortion and how that's like tied into efforts to control women. I really feel like I would have liked if this book had gone a little more in depth of like, how do we approach those instances where someone else's opinion is fueling policies that are causing active harm, like measurable active harm to communities. So I would have liked more of that, but I do think this is a really interesting starting point of like, how do we have open, honest conversations with other people? How do we get past our own like desire to stay in our own kind of bubbles? How do we get past our fear of being convinced by somebody else's argument? I think it's a really interesting place to start, and I'm really glad that I had to read this for class because I probably would not have picked this up otherwise. But I'm glad that this class pushed me to read this, and I definitely will be thinking about this book for a while now that I've read it. So that's that. Now I need to go eat lunch because I haven't done that yet. I sat down to read and it's now almost 2 o'clock and I am shaky. So it is food time now. And then I'm probably gonna do the TBR card thing next. I think that's the thing I want to do now, just to get my eyes a bit of a break from looking at words. Well, I just finished filming my TBR cart setup. You can actually see my other camera back here in the background. I decided to use my good camera for it just because I figured the audio would be a little bit better. Turns out that might have been a mistake because I did have a board that I was moving around that's clanking a lot. So I apologize in advance to anybody who watches that and has their ears assaulted by that loud noise in the background. But here's a little sneak peek of the TBR cart. So there you go. TBR cart in the corner. I put the other thing next to it. This is going to move. But for now, TBR cart. So that's the setup I've got going, and I need to update my little board up here. Well, I just finished my last goal of the day being to read one article, and that article has led me to several other articles that I think are going to be useful. But I'm going to take a break now. I'm feeling myself flagging, and also this little man needed some attention. Say hello, pumpkin. Right as I was finishing up that last page, he came up to me and like reached up and put his little paws on my hip to get my attention, and he wanted me to pick him up. So we're having some snuggle time. As you can see, he's a very cozy boy. And I'm gonna walk away from my computer for a little bit because I am definitely losing steam, but I feel good about the progress. I have made forward momentum. I've got a lot of good notes. That article is, I think, going to be really useful. And again, it led me to several other articles that I think are going to be useful. So I've requested a book from the library, downloaded a few more articles that I was able to access digitally, and then I have another book that I think I'm going to have to buy if I want to use it, because I can't seem to find access to it anywhere. I'm going to keep looking, but I'm feeling good about the progress that was made here today. So that leaves only my bonus task on my to-do list left undone. So all I have left on my to-do list is just to knit a little bit, and I think that's going to be very doable once this little guy is done having his snuggles. I am back. I've had a haircut. I'm freshly sheared like a sheep. I think I say that like every time. Anyway, had a haircut, also started Huge Around the World, and I'm really enjoying it so far. I'm only on chapter 3, but the first 3 chapters are establishing the emotional starting points of this book for the 3 kind of main perspectives we're getting. So in the first book, we primarily have Zhe and Ouyang as our main characters, and then there's like bits of POV from other characters now and then. And then in this one, we're actually getting Zhe, Ouyang, and now Baozhang as well. So really interested to see what his perspective is going to be like. I just got into his chapter and I'm a few pages into it. So far I'm really liking him as a character. I think he's starting at a really interesting place. But this is very much setting up like the emotional starting point. There's a lot of big events that happen at the end of the previous book, and this is establishing like the emotional beginning of the character's journey for this book. So kind of what each of them is experiencing now and the kind of the wake of what's happened before. Really enjoying the setup. I think that Jia and Ouyang are both starting in very interesting places, and I'm enjoying Baozhang so far. I think he's a really interesting character, and I'm glad to have his perspective in this because he's really interesting in the way that he's kind of like in things more than we realize in the first book. He's very much a side character, but he crops up again and again. He does some very interesting things in the first book, and so I'm excited to have his perspective in this one. So, not very far in yet, but I am immediately again into the writing, into the world. I think that Shelley Parker Chan does a really fantastic job of creating like a very vivid image of 14th century China that I think makes it really compelling and easy to get invested in like the atmosphere and the world. So really enjoying that. Very excited to keep reading. But it's fairly late in the evening now. It's like almost 9 o'clock. I think I'm actually just going to be super lazy this evening, get ready for bed, hang out and read for a while, and that's pretty much it. That is the rest of the evening for me. It's Friday morning now, and I am getting ready to go to campus. I've got to go to the class that I'm TIing, and then I've got quite a long day ahead of me because I've split up my work hours so that I can attend an English department party, because there's an instructor who I was emailing with about possibly being my co-director for my committee, and she said she's gonna be at the party, so I'm gonna get a chance to like chat with her a little bit there. And I've met her before, she's really nice, so I am looking forward to that, and it's gonna be good to see everybody again. But it does mean my day is a little bit longer because I had to split up my work hours to fit that in. But I think it's gonna be a good day, and I'm looking forward to it. I feel like I've been very productive this week, so I think today is gonna be another great day. What else? Oh, I made a decision, which is that I'm not going to keep trying to push through this before Monday. The other book is due Monday. I'm just gonna go to the library and turn it in and just suck it up and make 2 trips because it's really not that big of a deal. It's not that far. I just don't want to have to do it twice, but I'm gonna do it. I'm just gonna give myself a little extra time on this so I can focus on He Who Drowned the World this weekend and then read this over the next week. Feels much more reasonable to me than trying to like push through 2 books in the next few days. So that is the plan there. And then the plan for today, because I have a lot less time, is a little bit shorter. I still have like the same number of things on the list, but none of them are, I think, as big, or some of them are smaller. Basically, I want to focus on reading He Who Drowned the World. But the first thing I need to get done today is edit my mid-month wrap-up, because that's supposed to go up tomorrow, and it shouldn't take me very long. It's not a very long clip, but I've been reading a lot more this month, and so I wanted to like split it up so that my end of the month wrap-up won't be like a million years long. So I need to edit that and get it uploaded for tomorrow. I also want to try and read 1 more article so that I can keep the forward momentum that I am building here, and I'm feeling good about that decision. I think 1 article is like a reasonable amount to read in a short day, and then I think I'll probably spend more time later this weekend reading some more of those. And then the big thing that I want to try and get done is I'd like to read to 50% of He Who Drowned the World, which is what I have opened here. I'm at 6%, so I need to read 44% of the book today. And I feel like that is a big ask, but if I get the other stuff done right after I get home from work and after I've made dinner, then I can spend the rest of the evening just reading this. So I think it's a big ask, but it's maybe doable. I'm at least going to try and get close to 50%. So those are the main goals for today. I also would like to cast on my Mystery Knit Along project, because I'm seeing some pictures in the Discord that are like the first people making progress on the first clue, and I'm really liking it. I would really like to get started on mine. So that is the plan for today. It's kind of a lot for really, I'm gonna have like from like 6 to 10 or 11 depending on how late I stay up, and assuming that nobody messages me and wants to like play Fortnite or play Divinity or anything like that, which may happen, and I probably will do that if I get the opportunity because I enjoy spending time with my friends that way. So we'll see what's gonna happen, but I think it's gonna be an interesting day. We have our first gaming day. We're gonna be playing Stardew Valley in the class that I'm TIing for. So that's gonna be really fun. I think the party's gonna be nice, and getting to like see everybody again after months is gonna be great. So it's gonna be a good day. But for now, I'm gonna go read until it is time for me to go to campus, because I've got a little less than an hour, so I can make a good chunk of progress. Just got home. I'm very tired, and I am developing a headache because I am dehydrated for one, didn't drink enough water, entirely on me. And two, the party I had to go to was way more overwhelming than I was anticipating it was going to be. There were so many people there, and I didn't know there were that many people in the department. So it was packed. I was stressed. Did manage to ultimately kind of like settle in. I chatted with a few people. I got to talk to the professor I needed to talk to about my thesis stuff, so that was awesome. And then one of my professors came up and showed us a weird chicken tender. So it was a good time overall. I am glad that I went, but I am like incredibly tired. I always forget how exhausting socializing is to me. So I'm scrapping the to-do list for today. I'm just going to hang out. Mom and I are gonna make some dinner, and then I'm going to spend the evening reading and possibly playing some video games. And that is the plan. Happy Saturday. This is gonna be a very quick update because Mom is waiting for me because we're gonna go get some breakfast / brunch. But goals for the day, very simple. I want to read to the halfway point of He Who Drowned the World, which I think is doable. It's a really fun read so far and I'm enjoying it. I didn't read any yesterday, so I'm still at like 7%. So that's one thing. I want to read 2 articles for my thesis because that feels like a reasonable amount without me biting off more than I can chew or reading so much that I start to like lose focus because I'm trying to digest too many dense things. So 2 articles feels reasonable, and I need to do some laundry. So that's it. That is the to-do list for today. I feel like that's really doable, and I just woke up kind of late, so I have less time to do it today, but I feel like that's not an unreasonable amount of stuff to get done. Stayed up really late playing Fortnite with my partner. We had a great time. You can see like the progression of us getting tired because we won 3 of the 4 first rounds we played, and then we kept placing fairly high for a few rounds, and then we just tanked after that and placed really, really low for a few rounds. So that was kind of funny watching that progression. But we had a good time. We're definitely gonna do that again, so I might play some more Fortnite tonight with him. But yeah, for now, reading Who Drowned the World, reading some articles, and doing laundry is the goal for the day. It's been several hours, and I forgot to update and say I was completely scrapping the to-do list for today. I know I did this last night too, but I'm okay with that. I just wanted to have a rest day where I didn't have to do anything, and that is what I have had. I've played Fortnite all day with my partner, so that was a lot of fun. I mean, we're enjoying it, and I'm slowly leveling up, but ended up just doing that so far. You might be able to hear my computer fan in the background as my computer is trying to cool down. So I got that going on. Pumpkin was helping. He's come to visit several times. Let's see if we can get him in frame. There he is. Nope. There we go. There's the little buddy. So he's been hanging out with me today too. So anyway, haven't done anything. Gonna go help my mom make dinner in a little bit, and then I think I'm gonna spend the rest of the evening reading. Might play more Fortnite later depending on how I'm feeling, but yeah, just decided it was gonna be rest day, and I'm totally okay with that. Tomorrow is another weekend day. I can get stuff done tomorrow, and I'm not like behind or anything. So anyway, that is the plan, and I'm gonna go do some cooking and some reading. Well, I'm not quite awake enough today, but I will be soon. I'm gonna go get some coffee. But I do have quite a few things to get done today. I'm glad I took yesterday as a rest day. I'm very bad about allowing myself rest days, and I could tell yesterday my attention was just not going to be there, and I needed to let myself do that, so I'm glad that I decided to do that. I also turned in a library book yesterday, so I did that, one productive thing. But it was good to just have some time to relax, kind of virtually hang out with my partner, because we haven't had anything that we could like play together for a while. So I'm glad that I started playing Fortnite, so I have a way to like hang out with him when I can't like go visit him or he can't come visit me. So still a very good day. I'm glad I did that, but it does mean I have quite a few things I need to get done today. Most of the stuff from actually everything from my list yesterday basically is getting carried over because I didn't do any of it yesterday, but I also need to do like one additional thing. So from yesterday's list carrying over, I need to read 2 articles, and that's probably the least pressing because there isn't like a deadline on that. The deadline is really like March of next year. So it's probably the least pressing, but I do want to get some more forward movement on it. So I would like to read 2 articles. I feel like that's not an overly ambitious number to try and read. So that's carrying over from yesterday. I also now, because I didn't read it much yesterday, I read a little bit, but I didn't read much, I need to read basically all of He Who Drowned the World. It's not a very long book, it's like 400 pages, so I know it's doable in a single day, and I know that Shelley Parker Chan's writing is like fascinating and propulsive enough to get me through the book. I'm just also scared because I know it's going to be like emotionally devastating, because the first book is also like that. Then I also need to listen to a podcast for class tomorrow, for the class I'm TIing for. We're listening to The Sum of Us, episode 5, which I believe is about food justice and immigration. So I think that's going to be really interesting, and I'm curious to see how those topics are going to intersect in the podcast episode. But I'm going to listen to that today. And then the last thing I need to do, pardon my morning voice, it's very raspy, at least to my ears. I don't know how it's going to sound on the camera. But the last thing I need to do is do some laundry, because I didn't do that yesterday. So that's easy. That's just me setting a timer and remembering to go down periodically to swap everything out. So shouldn't be too bad. It's a little ambitious, but I'm feeling good today. I am starting to wake up a little bit. I'm gonna go get some coffee and I'll wake up some more, and I'm gonna get some food, and then I'm gonna get started. But I feel like it is ambitious but doable. And I have a little buddy over here who's gonna help me do it. He likes to lay on that table when I'm in here. And also I have a second little buddy right there. Well, it looks like I haven't moved, but I have had forward progress. I started some laundry, about to go swap that out again because it's been about an hour. And I also listened to the podcast I needed to listen to for tomorrow. So I've got all my notes here. And I think it's a really interesting episode. I might go back and listen to more of this podcast at some point. I struggle with podcasts, so I'm not sure when I'll get to it. But it's this podcast called The Sum of Us, and we listened to episode 5, which is on food justice and immigration. And I think it's on Spotify, it's called like episode 5, Lewiston, Maine. But it's about a group of Somali Bantu immigrants who originally fled Somalia to avoid genocide and escape, you know, the decimation of their communities. And then they went to Kenya and then were eventually resettled in the US. And many of them were resettled into cities, but as a community they found that they didn't really like city living all that much, and so some families began to move into rural areas and then were contacting their friends and being like, hey, this place is really great, it's much more like, you know, the towns we remember from Somalia, and we like this region really well. So a bunch of people ended up moving to Lewiston, Maine, and as a community group they formed their own like community group, and their leader Mahidin Liba started looking for land for them to lease to farm, because many of them were farmers in Somalia and it was like a big part of their culture, and so they wanted to be able to keep doing that and kind of carry that on. And so he started looking for land for them to lease, and they ended up facing like tons of discrimination because Lewiston is like a very white farming community, and there's this, what the podcast was talking about with this like idea of someone who is from away being somebody who is an outsider, who doesn't have the connection to Maine that like the local people do, coming in and trying to do things differently, and the kind of resistance of the local Maine communities to that kind of change. And so he was facing just like a ton of racism and discrimination trying to find land to lease. And actually some of the language is really hard to listen to because they have some clips of like politicians from the state saying really horrible things about the Somali refugees in their community. And I found that like so frustrating to hear that they're still facing that. But they ended up finally finding some community members who wanted to help, and they ended up getting some land to lease, but that turned out to be unstable, so then they were looking to buy land. And so then the rest of the podcast talks about the connection that was formed between the Somali Bantu community in Lewiston and this couple that were trying to sell their dairy farm because they had seen diminishing returns from it. They were getting older, their kids had all kind of moved away and didn't want to be farmers, so they were looking to sell the land and they wanted it to remain a farm. And so it's about like that connection that was created, and the agrarian commons that was set up as a result. So I think it was really interesting, and I think it's a really hopeful story that's like, as much as there is still discrimination and racism, and as much of a systemic problem as that is, there are these instances of like people coming together to change things and to try and like make everyone's lives better. So I really liked the story. I thought it was really good. I think the podcast is really well done. It's very well structured, well edited. Again, I have trouble with podcasts, so sometimes I have trouble like focusing on them, but I did not have that problem with this one. and I think is really good. So I'm glad that I listened to that. I do want to go back and listen to some more episodes of this at some point, but I am like prepared for discussion tomorrow now, and I'm curious to see what kind of discussion is going to come out of this podcast. This is our first, like, this will be our first day of like having an actual reading to do a discussion on, so I'm interested to see how that's gonna go. Apparently I was paying too much attention to the computer and not enough attention to the little man, because there's my desk over there, and here he is keeping me from it. So it looks like it's a different day. It's not. I got splashed while I was trying to clean my shower because I realized I needed to do that today. So I did that and managed to just drench myself with water while I was doing it. So very exciting. Cat hair in my mouth. My cat has been coming up for snuggles. Yeah, just decided to put on some dry clothes for the rest of the afternoon. But I just finished reading the 2 articles I needed to read. One of them is more helpful than the other, so but I'm done. I've read 2 articles, and I think I'm gonna leave it there for today. My focus is definitely waning, and now I need to go swap out my laundry again, help my mom fix dinner. It's actually pretty early. I think we're gonna do an early dinner because we didn't eat lunch today, we just ate breakfast. And then I'm gonna work on reading Huge Around the World. I'm looking at the time. I don't think I'm gonna get through the whole thing today, but I'm gonna make a valiant effort unless I just am too tired by the time I get to it. I am feeling pretty tired at the moment, but I'm gonna see what I can get done and move forward from there. It's about 6 o'clock, and I'm gonna admit defeat. I'm looking at the time I have left before bed, and also the fact that some of my friends want to chat, and I always like to chat with my friends. It's like sometimes we all get busy and it's hard to find time, so whenever there is time, I always want to take advantage of it. So it's simply not gonna happen. Even if I decided to sit down and not chat with my friends and just read all the way through the evening, there is no way I'm finishing the entire book tonight. So that is okay. I'm accepting defeat on that, and I'm going to keep powering through it later, but I probably will read a little bit right before bed once I've gotten off the call with them, and then I'll make that my priority book for the next 2 days. Mondays are going to be really long for me in terms of like schoolwork, so I'm anticipating my Monday evenings are mostly going to be used as chill time for this semester. Like take a little bit of rest time at the beginning of the week, just because that day is going to be really long. I have like class, work, class, and I'm going to be on campus for 8 or 9 hours straight. Anyway, I'm not gonna stress about it too much. I'll read some more tomorrow evening when I get home, and then I should be able to power through the rest of it on Tuesday. So I'll still be able to get an NetGalley review up on the day of, and that's fine. That is what I am hoping for. So I think that's pretty much all I have at the moment. I did a good chunk of my to-do list. I hear my Discord going off. Did a good chunk of my to-do list, and I'm feeling good about everything I got done this week. So I feel like vlogging, even though the last couple days have not been as productive, like on the whole, having this accountability thing I have started and being able to talk to you guys about what I'm reading and what I'm working on is really helpful to me. So I think I probably will continue doing this for a little while and just see how it works for me. But if you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. I really hope you've enjoyed this video, even though it's probably quite long. But if you have enjoyed this video, I hope you'll consider giving it a like, maybe even subscribing to see what comes next. I'm currently posting every Tuesday and Saturday, so there is more content coming soon, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye.